Hey guys, Muncheez here, and today we're going to go over Brelshaza Gate 2. We're going to go learn this fight, and we're going to use hard as a reference point. And if there's any differences between hard and normal, I'll go ahead and stick a note in, and I will point out the differences between the two. So, the first thing you want to do before you enter this gate is there's going to be 8 positions, so there's going to be 3 square positions and 3 diamond positions. And generally what most groups do is they'll come through at this beginning after they're done clearing trash. The stars are going to be red, yellow, and blue, yellow. So that means we'll get into that in a second. But these are the positions. So you'll be red, yellow, blue, yellow in the center. You will have 3 square positions. So there'll be a square 12, a square 3, a square 7. And then diamond 6 is actually all the way at the south of the map. And then diamond 1 and diamond 11. So as you can see, people are standing in their respective spots. And whatever's empty usually needs to be filled. So if you're just walking around and you don't know where your spot is, it's usually the empty one. Unless somebody has called it and they're standing somewhere and they just didn't get the memo. So usually whatever empty spot is and you don't know what spot's open, usually this is where you find out. And as far as items goes, bring some whirlwinds and bring time stop in case your 0-bar mech fails. And I personally, this is a personal thing for me, I bring sleeps, and I'll kind of talk about it when we get into that mechanic and that portion of the fight. So, with all that being said, this is what you do before the fight. Let's go in. So, when you get in, it's pretty cut and dry at the beginning. So, your first order of business is lower her to about 145 bars of health, where she will enter the first mechanic, which is the first stagger. It's the meteor stagger. And for the meteor stagger, so you're going to be, party 1 is going to go into their 3x clock positions, party 2 is going to go into their 3x plus 1 clock positions. The difference between this mech and hard and normal is in hard mode has 4 extra meteors, so they will spawn 4 extra meteors in hard mode. In normal mode, you just do your 1 typing test and you're done. In hard mode, there's an extra one, so just make sure you're in the right spots for when you're getting these meteors. You want to finish them as soon as you can. It's a pretty generous stagger window, so as you can see here, we have 1 meteor, and then there will be a second meteor that drops again, and these are the extras. And once you're finished, you just go stagger the boss. This is where I actually really like to use a whirlwind, because this stagger check is actually a smaller window than the second one. So generally she reaches 145 pretty quickly, so you don't see that many attack patterns, but after that, you start seeing a little bit more of her attack patterns, and I just want to go over a couple of them as soon as we get into one here. So for instance, she will do this thing where she twirls her spear in the air, and she will either do a red circle around her, or a blue circle. If it's the blue circle, that means that the outside is going to be safe first, and then the inside. So she'll fire a round of orbs off. So the way I remember this, if she does the red one, is we're all red on the inside, so the inside is safe first. So you only need to know one of these, because the other one is the exact opposite. So if it's red, it's always inside first. If it's blue, it's outside first. Now this is a thing she can do multiple times in a fight, which is the matching shapes attack. So hard will have 4 shapes that spawn, and normal will only have 2. So in hard, you have to drag 2 of the same shapes that she shows, and in normal, you only have to drag 1. So they will usually spawn at 3x or 3x plus 1, and then when you have to get close to the shape to get it to follow you. And when you do this, kind of spiral it into her in a clockwise position. That's the general standard that most groups do. Do not run into the opposing side's shape, because if you run into their shape while kiting yours into it, you screw up the whole mechanic and everyone has to use a time stop. So if you succeed it, what ends up happening is the shield of light buff that you get will protect you from the blast that she's about to do. So during this mechanic, it's a free and very, very large damage window for your whole entire team. So if you mess this up, you have to time stop. So as you can see, she just pulsed once. After the first pulse, if you fail this, this is when you want to time stop, after the first pulse. If you wait, or if you do anything like that, you're just kind of playing with fire there. You might live, you might not, who knows, but after the first is always safe. So the next thing that comes up is the 100 bar HP of the Medusa staggers. So yellow meteors will always spawn at like 3x and like 3x plus 1 spots. They always start at the outer ring and they'll move inward. So the first one will always be outside. If you're not gathering the meteors, stay away from the purple lines because they do damage. And if you're collecting the meteors, you have to stand directly on top of the meteor to get the stagger buff. So you can assign this if you want. You can do like, party 1 will yellow meteor, or like if you're running with your friends, this is generally what like parties of 4 will do. They'll be like, all right, so party 1 will do yellow meteor. But most pugs, they won't say anything and they'll just wing it. So my recommendation for this is if you go in here, just keep an eye out on your spot and see if anyone's grabbing it, because it's better to have someone with it than nobody with it. So in hard mode here, these Medusa eyes will alternate. So it'll be a look away eye, and then a look in eye, and then a look away eye, so on and so forth. In normal mode, they will always be the same eye. So if you get a look away eye, all the eyes will be look away, or if it's a look in eye, all the eyes will be look in eyes. So to clarify this a bit more, you don't know which one you're going to get first. So in hard mode, it'll either be look in first or look away first, and then it will alternate from there. And in normal mode, you will get either a look in or a look away, and they will all be the same. Now, when you're identifying these Medusa eyes, and that is these pulsing eyeballs, the cat's eyes with the pulses going away from them are always going to be look away from them. So you want to be facing in the opposite direction. A good tip for this is just use your auto attack button and just go in the opposite direction. You don't have to like right click or move anything. Just auto attack and look away or look in, depending on what you got. So the identifiers are the black hole eyes, which is the pulses going in towards it. So those you want to look in, and then the cat's eye obviously is the opposite. You want to look out. This is also a great place for the whirlwind grenades. So if you brought whirlwind grenades, go ahead and just toss one just to be safe. Regardless of if you have the meteor or not, it all contributes to the same stagger bar. The stagger pattern itself is actually pretty long too, but you have plenty of time and you should be able to finish it in a timely manner. And that's the stagger mech for the 100 bar for the Medusa stagger. And from here on out, the next one is going to be where she goes berserk. So at 85 bars of health, she'll kind of do like a soft enrage, and she modifies all of her abilities and she starts doing more damage. So everything that you were getting hit by before now possibly could do like half your health in like one hit. So before we get into that, I'm going to go over the silence mechanic. So the first thing you want to do is she'll silence you, and you're going to look at your minimap to see where the branded players have to go. So it'll show on your minimap, and the branded players, they have to make it to the circle, and you want to avoid the walls with as accurate movement as you can and go exactly where all the gaps are. You don't want to touch any of the walls because they do a knockback. So if you play a DI Shadowhunter or an EV Scouter, if you're transformed, apparently you can just walk through the walls if you're transformed. And in normal mode, you'll only have one branded player. In hard mode, you'll have 3. So all the branded players have to make it to the ring to avoid being mind controlled. Now, if you do get mind controlled, there is a timing to right before the mind control effect goes off that you can throw a sleep grenade into the air and break everyone out of it. But this takes a lot of practice, and you have to see the mechanic fail multiple times. So be patient with that. So let's get back to the modified moves that you want to look out for. The 2 that stand out to me the most, this is going to be one of them right here, is the imprison counter. It now hits behind her as well if you miss the counter. So she's going to do this imprison thing. So you want to dodge the circle. She does 4 of these. So after these 4, she's going to be counterable. And if you countered her recently, the counter will be on cooldown. So be at her sides. You don't want to be in front of or behind her. As you can see, we missed the counter here, but the spear attack goes straight through her front and back. And the other one is the black hole swing. It's the one where she slings out like 4 black holes from her, and it'll now have a follow-up, and this follow-up does an immense amount of damage. It kills usually most people. So now we'll get into the 42 HP Shapes mech. So the 42 bars of HP Shapes mech, these are the positions that are organized at the start. The squares will break 2 shapes each, and the diamonds will also break 2 shapes each, and then the stars break 1 now. So Inanna is used here or at 0 bars, and the only difference between hard mode and normal mode is hard mode has constant Medusas during this mech. So if you don't use Inanna during this, you have to make sure that whoever is doing these shapes has to be confident in how the Medusas work and how to avoid taking damage from them, and like what you can and can't do. So as you can see, we don't Inanna, so I have to be very careful not to get pushed out. So I wait for it to be safe because I am doing the stars, and the stars is the most important one because if you mess this up, you take 3 other players down with you. But generally speaking, if you do use Inanna, a huge tip I have for if you use Inanna for either of these mechs, just stand inside of the Inanna until the shapes at your position spawn, and then go kill your shapes. Now, if you do have to take a tick from these Medusa eyes, make sure you just take 1 or maybe 2 at the most, but do not take more than 1 or 2 at the most because you will probably end up dying. You can paralysis immune the explosion, so you can still break your shape without getting knocked back or away from it or whatever. Now, once you break your shapes, the stars and the squares can just chill in the middle. If you have broken a diamond shape, you want to just stay at the edges and avoid everybody else inside the middle of the map. So the last mechanic we got is the 0 bar mech, which is the spears mech. It's going to be party 1 3x, party 2 3x plus 1 for your positions for this mechanic. You'll be either a red spear or a blue spear. The difference between this in hard mode and normal mode is in hard mode, it'll have a Medusa that is constant. It'll alternate between look away, look in, look away, look in. So be very mindful of this. And if you are using Inanna for this in hard mode, stay in the Inanna by your area, especially if you have 8 people alive. There's no reason to move from the spot until your spear actually spawns in that area that you're close to. Because what ends up happening is people get curious. They're like, oh, is my spear over here? Is my spear over there? And then what ends up happening is they step outside of the Inanna, they get knocked away, and I'm pretty sure it happened here because we Inanna'd at the end, and we still ended up failing getting all 8 spears. So if this happens, just time stop after the black orb that she forms just finishes forming, and just hit time stop and you'll be safe, and you just got to kill her one more time from, like, I don't know, 20 bars of health or something like that. But that's pretty much it for this fight. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, or anything like that, feel free to leave it in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time, and I'll have part 3 coming up soon. So thanks for watching. Bye.